I confirm, Mr. Chairman, the live stream has been started.
Okay, we've got an issue at the moment. We're just going to adjourn for 5 minutes whilst we try and contact a member. Thank you.
Is that, sorry,
yeah.
Yeah.
I can confirm, Mr. Chairman, the live stream is now being restarted.
Thank you very much. Before I formally start the meeting, I can confirm this meeting has been held in accordance with the Licensing Act of 2003 and the Licensing Act Hearing Regulations of 2005, which allow councils to make their own arrangements for licensing subcommittees to hear matters in connection with premises licences. Okay, I will begin by introducing those present in the room with me. I'm Councillor Paul Andrews. I'm the chairperson of the subcommittee, licensing subcommittee. Today I have Councillor Elizabeth Foxton to my left and Councillor Jeremy Mill to my right. Councillor Claire Davis is also in attendance, but as an observation role only. She will not have any part of this meeting. Legal advice to the subcommittee is Alice McAlpine and also Lorna Lucas, who's observing as well. Clerk to the subcommittee is Sarah Buffrey, and on behalf of the Licensing Authority is Emma Bell, Licensing Technical Officer. We also have Alfie Best Linos as the Technical Officer. Okay, I'll now go to each attendee, remote attendee, to confirm that they can hear and be heard. So if you could verbally confirm that you'll be able to hear me, and I'll confirm in response that I can hear you. Where practical, please also have your video switched on so that you can be seen by the members in attendance and the public watching. So I will be going to the applicant, Mr. Jeff Goulding, on behalf of R.M. Roberts. Can you hear and see me?
Yeah, we can hear you, we can see you, and I've got my wife, joined by my wife Sarah as well. Okay,
thank you very much. Right, thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting. The council is video and audio streaming this meeting live on the internet and making a recording. The recording file forms part of the public record of the meeting and will be available on the council's website. Please remember what you say and do in this meeting has a global reach, and your words and actions should be chosen carefully. There are some additional points for the members and officers to be aware of. As part of the meeting etiquette, all microphones apart from mine will be placed on mute at the start and during the meeting. I will run through the agenda in the customary way. Please note, the chat facility has been switched off to ensure that attendees' contributions can be offered through the spoken voice and for the public record. Please ensure all mobile devices are switched off to prevent interference with the audio and video system. If any remote attendee loses connection, the meeting will be paused as cert if the connection can be restored quickly. If it's not possible to recover the connection within a reasonable amount of time, the meeting will continue as long as there's a quorum of subcommittee members remains able to hear the proceedings and be heard. If you plan to leave before the end of the meeting, please can you indicate this in advance? Are there any questions about the procedures before we continue? No? Okay. Can I ask if there are any apologies for absent?
There are none, Chair.
Okay, so obviously there's no name substitutes. Declarations of interest. Are there any Schedule 1, Schedule 2 or other interests to be declared for the items on the agenda today? Can you please do this by raising your virtual hand, and I'll then ask you to speak to notify the meeting which item you have an interest in and the nature of that interest. No? I'd like to confirm that the DPS that's mentioned in the documents, Martin Ullman, I know, well, how can you say, as a passing acquaintance. So can you please note that? Okay. Nothing else from anybody else? No? Okay, so we'll go on to item number 5. Application of occasional, well, it's not grant of a premises licence in respect to Tresseck campsite, Hallwithy, Hereford, HR2 6QH. This item was first heard on the 4th of November and was adjourned until today to allow for a site visit to be undertaken by members of the subcommittee. So I will now go to Emma Bow on behalf of the licensing authority.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendations are that the subcommittee determine the application with a view to promote the licensing objectives. They should give weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote those licensing objectives, representations, including any supporting information presented by all parties, the guidance issued to local authorities under Section 182 of the Licensing Act, and the Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025. And the reason for this ensures compliance with the Licensing Act 2003. There are a number of options open to the subcommittee. One would be to grant the licence subject to conditions that are consistent with the operating schedule. Two would be to grant the licence subject to modified conditions. To exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates to. To refuse to specify a person in the licence as the premises supervisor, or to refuse the application in its entirety. The application for grant of a premises licence has received relevant representations and is therefore brought before the subcommittee for determination. Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025 states all representations must be relevant. For example, they must be about the likely effect of the grant of the application. This is followed by paragraph 8.57 in the Section 182 guidance, which uses the same wording. The details of the application are: the applicant is R.M. Roberts. We received the application on the 28th of July 22. Date of the consultation started on the 29th of July 22, and the 28-day consultation ended on the 25th of August 22. The application, which can be found at Appendix 1, requests the following: sale and supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday, midday to 10 p.m. And the campsite is open from the 1st of March to the 31st of October annually. 2 representations have been received from responsible authorities, which are West Mercia Police and Training Standards. Those can be found at Appendix 2 and 3. The conditions that they have requested have been agreed by the applicant, and therefore the representations have been withdrawn. 2 relevant representations have been received from members of the public in line with the licensing objectives that the licensing authority have accepted as being relevant. They can be found at Appendix 4. The licensing authority shared with those making public representations a copy of the licence conditions that the applicant has agreed to adhere to. That can be found at Appendix 5. However, the licensing authority has not been notified that these address the concerns of the members of the public. During the consultation period, the premises applied for and were granted 7 temporary event notices, abbreviated called TENS. These were for sale and supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises between 12 midday and 2200 hours. In a supplement that was published this morning, on page 2, there is a map that shows a van bar. This is relevant to those temporary event notices when they were applied for and not relevant to the application you heard today. The application was heard before the Licensing Subcommittee on the 4th of November 22, where a determination could not be made, and the subcommittee decided a site visit would be required before any decision was made. This site visit took place on the 14th of November 22. Any decision may have an impact on the local community. This report is in relation to a premise licence under the Licensing Act 2003, and accepts there are minimal environmental impacts to the council as the licensing authority. There are a number of equality duties and legal implications set out in this report, which your legal advisor can advise further on. As the report is in relation to a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003, there are minimal resource implications for the council as the licensing authority, and also there are unlikely to be any financial implications either. There is a right of appeal under Schedule 5 of the Licensing Act 2003. Appeals should be made to the Magistrates' Court and must be made within 21 days, beginning with the day at which the appellant was notified by the licensing authority of the decision appealed against. There is little risk associated due to the 21-day appeal period. All responsible authorities and members of the public living within Herefordshire have been consulted. Appendices 1 to 5 can be found at the back of the report, and also the supplement that I mentioned earlier in the report was published this morning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. We have no public representations here today, so I will go straight to the applicant, Jeff Golding. on behalf of obviously R.M. Roberts. In your own time, Mr. Golding. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't aware that I needed to provide you with any more information.
No, that's fine. If you don't want to speak, that's your right. But have anybody got any questions to anybody? Members?
Well, I do apologise. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I understand that the applicant has accepted a number of conditions that were put forward by West Mercia Police, and one of the conditions is around the use of polycarbonate, in other words, single-use plastic glasses rather than proper glass glasses for consumption outside the immediate area of the survey. And I obviously understand the reasons why they've asked for that in pursuit of trying to reduce public disorder and injury and so on. But there arises concern around this obviously places an additional pressure on littering potentially, and it is another of our responsibilities to try and minimise. So I just wonder if we ask for a specific condition, an additional condition, or to and ensure that there is adequate receptacles for litter in appropriate places, and that they are appropriately monitored and emptied or whatever, whether that would be acceptable to the applicant. I mean, I imagine it would be considered, but
yeah, absolutely. We'd actually prefer not to have plastic cups being drunk from. I feel that's additional waste creation. And when we ran our temporary events notice licenses, we had special bins for the glass bottles to be disposed of, and that worked particularly well. They're recycled through our contractor. So I don't really see there being an issue with glass bottles being used to be drunk from, and I would rather not introduce more single-use plastic containers if that was possible.
Well, certainly I would applaud that sentiment, but the requested condition is that draft drinks are served, in other words, beer or wine that is served out of a bottle is served in plastic. So what are you proposing to do to address the minimisation of waste and litter?
Just agree with this one. Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah. So
just to be clear, we're not serving draft beer. We're just serving bottled beer, cider, and wine. So, look, we're happy to abide if that's what the police want. But I just feel that's a waste when it comes to additional single-use plastic containers, when we're all trying to reduce that. So, and unless we're having to abide by that particular rule, I'd rather that we didn't have to pour the contents from a glass bottle into a plastic cup for them all to be thrown into the skip.
Can I come back on?
yeah.
Well, I would simply ask whether the licensing officers would accept the removal of that condition then completely, or is that a possibility?
Sorry, Alice.
Sorry, Chair, just to be clear, that condition was agreed by the applicant with West Midlands Police. I don't feel it's appropriate to then ask the licensing authority to disapply a condition that was agreed with the police.
Okay.
If they did want the condition removed and say the licence was granted today, they'd have to put in a variation to have those conditions removed.
Okay. All right. Okay. As much as I can say on that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Mill. Councillor Foxton. Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. All I can say from the site visit and what I saw and the way the business is run, I would imagine that bins and clearing up and keeping the place tidy, free from litter, I would suspect that would be a high priority with the applicant. That's my feeling. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Foxton. I haven't got any additional questions. I think if members haven't got anything else they'd like to say, Reverend. Right. I'm just looking at my watch.
12:20, Chair.
12:20. Right. Thank you. Right. The subcommittee will now adjourn till I think 20 minutes, so that would be 20 to 1. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. We'll now adjourn to discuss the application. We'll come back in 20 minutes to let you know our decision. For any remote attendees, I'll be grateful if you could please rejoin the meeting 5 minutes prior to the end of the adjournment in case there are any technical issues which need.
I can confirm, Mr. Chairman, the live stream has been restarted.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Licensing Subcommittee. I will now read the decision of the subcommittee. The decision is, the subcommittee's decision is to approve the application as applied for, subject to an additional condition requiring the applicant to check the area to which the licence applies for litter at least once a day. The reasons for the subcommittee have taken into account the written representations from the members of the public, responsible authorities, as well as the information presented to the subcommittee on the 4th of November 2022 and today. The committee has recognised the concerns raised and the reasons why the representations were made, particularly in relation to littering. The subcommittee considers the application with the additional of the condition in relation to the litter checks will promote the licensing objectives. Thank you very much. That is our decision.